So you use the example of Zoom and calendaring. Whatever calendar tool they've been using for years is so adopted and so accustomed to within that organization that it makes a shift and that kind of behavioral shift to a new solution or new feature very, very challenging. So what happens over time and what we're seeing a lot of is not just product feature overlaps where you may have competing functionality or duplicative functionality with Zoom and let's say Google Calendar or whatever the organization is using. But over time, we're actually seeing complete application overlaps where applications become these all-in-one solutions where you now have applications that are doing the same thing in aggregate. So while it sounds good on paper, the actual kind of adoption of that is not what we'd expect it to be, just because driving that behavioral organizational shift is very challenging to do.
So from your perspective, which is the way the industry is moving, would you recommend from pricing and packaging perspective to introduce more modular packaging? So pushing the customers into buying suites might be counterproductive and actually work against increasing revenue.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is complex and it really depends. I think what it depends on is the execution. I think you have a lot of organizations that maybe are going after what a trend is, right? Like usually what happens is you have, let's say, a company like Slack, right, that comes in and builds a very, very effective communication tool that is highly adopted within various sizes of organizations. And then you have a company like Google, for example, right, with Google Workplace, that will go after that competitor in developing their own tools, such as chat. However, if you look at chat, for example, Google Chat's functionality is so limited that it lacks in capability, right? So Slack is still, for example, the preferred tool. So I think a lot of it comes down to execution. If a company wants to take a competitor like Slack or insert whatever name, it can be done, but it depends on how much resourcing they're allocating towards it. The alternate trend that is probably more prevalent is that you see acquisition of these smaller companies, right? Slack, as an example, got acquired. So I think it depends, but generally speaking, these larger companies, I think, are probably better suited by acquiring the tool that they're trying to effectively incorporate within their suite.
So if I understand you correctly, you were saying that the suite of different functionalities is still the right way forward, that you need to make sure that all of those elements are kind of the highest quality.
So the benefit for a central location or a central tool where you have kind of a suite of functionality is ideal from a management perspective, right? Because you can manage the spend, you can manage who has access, and you can more easily control how much you're spending. However, if the functionality isn't there, teams will kind of do what they need to do and buy whatever tool they need to make their work more efficient. So yeah, I have yet to see it work as it should on paper. So said differently, what we're seeing a lot more is you have the suite of tools over here that a company may be paying for, whether it's Zoom, whether it's something like Salesforce, and they're using only limited capability of that overall suite functionality and then adding in kind of the individual tools that they prefer.
So in terms of how that trend is impacting the way we offer functionalities to customers in terms of how we package it, my opinion is that pushing customers into buying into the suite could deter potential customers from the purchase because inevitably they will face some level of tech waste, some shelfware. So I always believe that we should invite people to purchase and maybe incentivize it rather than forcing it. So that's why I would recommend more of a modular approach, and the customers see that the solution, let's say your chat is the same quality as Slack, they will move it with the right pricing incentives. But kind of forcing the suites of products, in my opinion, might be a bit kind of missed idea.
I agree. Yeah, I think with modular pricing, you have a lot more flexibility. And I think for the company, there's, an opportunity to increase revenue. I think the one challenge that I've seen, and this is more, I think, for smaller to medium-sized businesses, not necessarily on the enterprise front with the modular pricing, is that the devil is in the detail, right? It really depends on how these different modular packages are actually presented. Oftentimes, there's kind of like the lower level entry package, right? And then the medium package and a larger package. And the jumps or the step changes between each of them are almost not sustainable for smaller businesses, right? Even having founded solutioneers, we've seen that as we're adopting different tools, we really like certain tools, but then the increase in cost to get to the next level of functionality is just too much. An example of that is we were using Salesforce CRM, right, for our business development and outreach. And we wanted to have the capability of actually creating campaigns, which would have increased our cost, I think, 5 to 7x, which is, for a smaller business, quite a bit to handle. And ultimately, we ended up transitioning over to HubSpot, which has that capability not only at a lower cost price or cost point, but the tool itself is actually a lot more user friendly. Salesforce, is notoriously challenging to work with in terms of just getting it set up. So I think the approach around modular pricing is the correct strategy, but it really depends on how those packages are set up to then drive that customer behavior that you're looking for and that you were speaking to earlier.
As always, the devil is in the details.